Let me ask you guys a question. If you had the option between having all the money that you needed for you and your family to be comfortable, to live a wonderful life, and to have all the experiences that you would love to have, or you're drowning in debt, you're stressed out on a regular basis, but to the outside world, you looked wealthy and successful, which option would you choose? Many of us say we would choose option A, but by our actions, we're choosing option B. And I'm here to show you in this video why you should avoid at all costs all of the pitfalls and all of the traps that take your money and steal your joy. So stick with me to the end, and I'll show you exactly the strategies that I'm taking and that I have taken in the past to actually get out of debt and to grow my wealth so much faster because I don't have that anchor laying over my shoulders. So, first and foremost, I want to address the elephant in the room. We all, in some form or fashion, deal with debt. It's something that you can't avoid in many instances. Even if you're doing really good at avoiding credit card debt, most of us have student loan debt. Most of us, if we don't have student loan debt, we at least have a mortgage that we're paying off. So this video is not bashing anybody who's in debt. This video is trying to show you exactly why it's so detrimental to our wealth building to be in especially consumer debt and why we should fight at all costs to get out of it. So I want to talk to you about the four major reasons why I think we get into consumer debt. I'm going to avoid the housing because we always have to live somewhere. And even in this environment, you can be trying your best to live within your means, and housing prices have just fluctuated. So I'm not going to talk about housing in this video, but I will talk about cars, clothes, food, and trips. Those are the four horsemen of the debt apocalypse. Those are the things that are dragging us down. And if we're honest with ourselves, in many instances, we're living beyond our means by trying to show the world that we've got the ability to afford these nice cars and these designer clothes, and it's not benefiting us. So when you think about the car aspect of things, the average, and I'm talking average, used car note every single month is well over $500 a month. So if you let that sink in, and then you think about the average price of the new J's, if you actually get them retail, it's going to be $200. But most of us aren't catching them retail. So if you got to buy those Jordans, on sites like Flight Club and some of these other places, you're spending even more than that. You think about food, and you think about the fact that instead of preparing our lunches and meal prepping every Sunday for the week, we are, in a lot of instances, me included, using those lunchtime periods to get out of the office to go buy food. And so you may end up spending $20 a day on just lunch and something to drink. And all of that money, in a lot of ways, could be saved and stacked up for investing in the future. And then last but not least is trips. So when we talk about trips, we're talking about, everything as simple as just going to visit your relatives on the state next to you, or flying to Cancun or Jamaica or the Bahamas or Maldives, and all of these kind of expensive places that people want to go to. But in a lot of times, these trips are being put on credit. And instead of people stacking and stacking and stacking throughout the year for the trip they want to take next year, it's a spur of the moment or a few weeks or a few months in preparation, but you know you're going to end up putting a lot of that on credit. And I've been guilty of all of these things. But what I want to show you is exactly how much you're hurting yourself by racking up this credit card debt. So I put together a little model that shows you what a $20,000 credit card bill really costs you by the time you pay it off. If you got a net worth of $1,000 at the very beginning of a 6-year span, and you go and you rack up $20,000 worth of credit card debt by going on an elaborate trip and buying a new wardrobe for your trip, right? Like that's very easy to do. That $20,000 to pay back would take you well over 6 years. Actually, if you think about the averages, and these are just some stats that I pulled online, the average credit card interest rate right now is 24%. So what that means is if you get this $20,000 worth of credit card debt and you have to pay this credit card debt back with 24% interest, then every single month, if you were making the minimum payment, and the minimum payment on average is between $400 and $600 a month. So we'll use $500 for this example. Now, if we assume that we started off with $1,000 in our bank account, but $20,000 worth of credit card debt, and we're going to make $500 payments every single month, how long do you think that's going to take you to pay off? Well, that actually will take you 6 years and 10 months to pay off that $20,000 credit card bill. But what's even more alarming than the amount of time it would take you is the fact that as you make those payments, you're going to end up paying your initial $20,000 back in that 6 year, 10-month span. But on top of that, you're going to pay another $20,000 in interest alone. So by the time you finish making those payments over that 6+ year span, you have actually paid back $40,000. Now, can you imagine that one trip that you took almost 7 years ago cost you $40,000 7 years later? And that compounds because that's one trip, that's one outing, that's one event. But if you've taken one trip and then you take another trip and then you go and buy that car that's probably a little bit outside of your price range and you do all of these things, then you wonder why every single month we're actually drowning just trying to make the notes, just trying to make the payments, and we don't have the opportunity, we don't have the bandwidth to go and invest in the market. We're not able to go invest in better education or better learning or take a course to really up our skills because we think we don't have any money. And we don't. The reason why is because we've been putting all of this excess funds into the appearance. So I implore you, I beg you, please, please, please take a year, take 2 years, write down a list of all of the credit cards that you have. And once you do that, I want you to put a strategy in place that says, okay, I'm not going to pay this all off overnight. And I don't want to completely shut my lifestyle down. And if you don't want to take drastic measures, then let's take a measured approach that gives you a little bit of the best of both worlds. And I've had to do this myself, and I'm still working through some of these things. So I'm speaking to you guys from experience. If you say, I can't reasonably see myself going full out fire movement mode, not doing anything, eating homemade peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all day, and living like such a frugal lifestyle that it would drive me crazy. Okay, I get that. But let's make incremental changes. Let's do things like this. Instead of both you and your wife having a luxury vehicle on the income that you make, you don't drive the Beamer and she doesn't drive the Benz. What happens is you at least say, okay, I'm going to drive a Toyota, but I can pay this Toyota off in short order. And now my wife can drive a, I don't know, a Mercedes G Wagon or whatever it is that you're into. And yes, that is still a little bit more of an expensive compromise. But if you did that approach, then you could save $500 from not having two luxury vehicles. And in the money that you're saving, you could be working to actively, aggressively pay off some of your other debt. That's one strategy. If you think about the clothes that you're wearing, instead of saying, okay, I know every season I'm going to upgrade my wardrobe, you might have to go a couple of years without buying the newest drops, without getting the most expensive bags. And instead, make a commitment to yourself to say, I'm not going to completely cut off all spending, but what I am going to do is I'm going to buy these few quality pieces at the start of a year. And instead of buying new things on a regular basis, I'm going to take very good care of those things. So, what that might look like for you realistically is that might look like you spending a little bit more on dry cleaning, but way less on new clothes so that your clothes stay pristine. And that also might mean you were investing $100 of that money that you were going to spend on new clothes on your gym membership. And stick with me on this. If you invested in your gym membership, then what happens is you actually physically look better, feel better, fit your clothes better. And I guarantee you that if you were in the best possible shape you could be in, then that white t-shirt from Target and that all black t-shirt from Calvin Klein looks way better than you being out of shape in a designer Louis shirt, right? So you can save way more money and focus on the things that actually enrich your life if you take the measured approach that says, I'm going to focus on value, I'm going to focus on inner well being, and I'm going to save this money because I want to get out of debt so I can one day be financially free. Take that approach with the clothes. Now let's talk about food. So if you're thinking about food, what if you just played a game with yourself and said, I am going to every single week earn my way to that takeout meal? And the way I kind of think about this, and my wife and I actually just started doing this, is instead of me spending that extra $20 every single day eating out, we're getting a meal plan and we're going to actually get our meals delivered. And yes, it's still an expense, but we live a hectic life. But that expense might be $10 a day and not $20 a day. So that small incremental difference will save me $50 a week. And that $50 a week can go towards very aggressively paying off some of our debt from student loans and some of our debt from past trips and things from when we were younger and when we were a little bit more reckless and careless with the way we spent our money. Just in doing that, just in making that small incremental change, yes, it's going to take you longer. And my real advice would be hunker down and go balls to the walls and just pay everything off as fast as possible. But I also know that some of you all are in a different situation in life where you don't want to put your kids through that. You don't want to put your wife through that. You don't want to have to go through that period of sacrifice that's so significant, that is so uncomfortable that you don't actually stick to it. So what I'm saying is ease your way into it and maybe you'll catch fire and want to be even more frugal after the fact. But if you do it this way, then you can at least see progress. Go through, audit your expenses, audit your food, look at what you're doing, because what I can almost guarantee you is during the week you're eating out. On the weekends, you and your wife or you and your significant other are going out to eat on date nights or whatever. And so you're just double dipping into the funds that should be going towards aggressively paying off this debt. So instead, do this. Like I said, try to think about it as earning your way to the takeout food that you want. So if you have to make your lunch for the first 4 days of the week and then Friday you get to eat out, then that's your reward. That's your sacrifice. And then the payoff for the sacrifice coming in short order. And then maybe you also can play the same game by saying, okay, I'm going to use a meal delivery service that's going to save me money, or I'm going to make my own lunches. But every weekend or every other weekend, my wife and I go eat somewhere nice, and we might spend $200 on dinner, but that $200 on dinner is going to be a reward for me essentially saving well over $200 through the course of the week by making much better decisions. So, in the long run, sure, you're not saving as much money as you could, but you may end up going from spending $500, $750 on fast food and takeout and restaurants to spending $250 or $300. And that difference can go towards aggressively paying off those credit card debts. The last thing that I want to talk about is trips. We all need a relief from these 9 to 5 jobs. I get it. I am in the same boat. And my recommendation would be either A, if you and your spouse or you and your significant other are aligned, completely shut down the trips for a year or two. Just say, like, look, man, we're trying to get out of debt. We are going at this thing Dave Ramsey style. We're going to shut it all down. And if you can do that, cool, do that. If not, then my next solution would be to make your trips more modest. So we live in this Instagram culture, and everybody wants to show the world what we're doing, where we're going, how we're living. We're taking trips to Bahamas and Maldives, and we're racking up this debt, and we're doing things that look great on paper. They look great on the gram, and then for years and years after that, you're paying off the expenses for those trips. So one thing that I would recommend is, in this season where you're trying to save money, you're trying to pay off this debt, but you still need to do things with your family, take a trip that's a lot more conservative, but still really fun. So one thing that we do is we get with a group of friends, and every other year or two, we might go to Florida, but we might drive to Destin as opposed to flying to South Beach. And for where we live, yeah, that's an 8 to 12 hour drive. So it's not the sexiest trip. We're not in first class, but I promise you, we have such a good time when we get there that it doesn't matter that we're not in the south of France or not in the finest suite at the Bahamas, because those memories, those experiences with friends and family that love you and care for you, those are what matter. And we may never post those pictures on Instagram. But like, if you can take a few years and travel modestly and eat modestly and wear clothes that you can recycle year after year because they're good quality, and you can drive cars that make sense for your budget, for your financial goals, even if they don't make you look like you are the richest person in your community or from your family, then I guarantee you, you won't be in debt forever. And once you get out of debt, you can exponentially grow your investing. You can grow your savings. You can grow your impact that you have on the world and on people in your community. Um, I'm speaking to you passionately because I feel that feeling, that weight, that debt, that strain where you're always thinking about, who do I owe and how much can I pay on this bill to avoid them sending me a notice? How much is that credit card going to charge me this month? And by the way, my habits haven't changed, so I'm never getting out of this cycle. I don't want that for you. If you want to learn more, please keep tuning in. I will walk you through this practical information. The only goal for this channel is to either help you get the job you want, which we're going to get to, either help you advance in the career you have, or for what we've been talking about, help you invest, save, and manage your money wisely so you never need a job in the first place long term. So stick with me, and I'll keep these videos coming. Peace.